been friends with Conrad and Bewe and others for years.
Mm-hmm.
What should we be doing about the prosperity gospel, the health and wealth gospel? Do you think Christians are too harsh about it? Do you think we should be quiet, we should be vocal? What should the average healthy church's response be, and how do we rescue people?
I think there's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and I think there's some things that need to be written in this part of the world, for this part of the world, addressing the charismatic movement as it exists here, because it's different here, and some of the historical and traditional roots here, tend to make it stick in different ways here than it does in other places. And so, for example, in the U.S., we've got Kingdom of the Cults, and Jehovah's Witnesses answered verse by verse, and we've got charismatic chaos, and we've got truth wars, and all these other things that have been written, but they're being written about the American context. We need some of those things being written here, being written about this particular context, and addressing these things head on. And these things need to be translated into the vernacular so that people can have them in their native tongues here, because this stuff is rampant. It's viral, and so, that needs to happen. And I think there's an advantage here. In the U.S., we believe that the 11th commandment is thou shalt be nice, and we don't believe the first 10. And so the idea of confronting error is just frowned upon. I think it's more appreciated here. I think directness and confrontation is more appreciated here. And I think right now it needs to happen. There's some things that need to happen, in terms of direct confrontation of cults and heretics, that are just ravaging the land here.
Your church is down the street from Joel Osteen. Is there time for pastors to name names, or do you just need to lay out principles and expect people to connect the dots?
I do both. Yeah, I do both. But yet Paul named names, Alexander the coppersmith did me much harm, I love that. Yeah, he could have just said Alex, He could have just said, no, Alexander the coppersmith, the guy on Main Street around there he points the guy out, again, not in a way to be mean, but in a way to warn people. And man, in our town, there are a lot of people who don't understand what a threat Joel is, which makes him more of a threat, I call him Smiling Joel, everything's just so nice, and he's always so, And yeah, I call his name, and some other folks whose names, need to be called from time to time. Not just because, hey, I feel like, I need to call somebody's name, but as a shepherd, when I feel like my sheep are in danger, then I do that. Titus 1:9, I must hold firmly to the trustworthy word as taught, so that I can exhort in sound doctrine and refute those who contradict it. That's part of my job description. And so sometimes I do have to name names when I see things that are becoming a direct threat to the sheep that I'm shepherding. So no, not just as a matter of course, just because you like naming people's names, but when it's a direct threat, to the sheep, names need to be named.
Should Joyce Meyer be a part of our spiritual diet?
No. No.
Why not?
Because she's a heretic. Yeah.
What makes you say that? That's harsh.
Her teaching, the gospel that she preaches another gospel. Joyce Meyer preaches another gospel. Not to mention the fact that she's assuming a role that women shouldn't assume. So no,
now you're stirring.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the gospel that she preaches is another gospel. It's the prosperity gospel. And here's what's so dangerous about the prosperity gospel. And John, I think John Piper said it best. The prosperity gospel is so dangerous because it promises exactly what our flesh wants. The true gospel says to your flesh, you must die. The prosperity gospel says to your flesh, you get to live. You get everything that you in your natural, sinful, carnal state ever wanted. That is not the gospel. That's another